Hey there, beautiful humans of the internet. It's your mental health companion, Zaki, welcoming you back to the channel. Have you ever experienced one of those peculiar days where you don't feel particularly miserable, yet there's this pervasive emptiness lingering in your chest? This inescapable blah sensation that hovers around you like a persistent fog? Now imagine that unsettling emotional limbo becoming your constant companion. Not just for fleeting moments or scattered days, but stretching relentlessly across months, seasons, and even years of your precious life. That's exactly what we're delving into today. Dysthymia, or what medical professionals now term persistent depressive disorder. It's essentially depression's stealthier, more patient cousin that doesn't announce its arrival with dramatic breakdowns, but instead methodically and gradually drains of vibrancy from your existence, stealing your joy molecule by molecule until the grayscale world becomes your accepted reality. Throughout this video, we'll journey together to uncover what dysthymia truly is beneath its deceptive surface, why this emotional vampire so often evades detection even by mental health professionals, and most crucially, the powerful, life-transforming steps you can take to reclaim your emotional spectrum. If you or someone precious in your life has been trapped in this purgatory of perpetual, just okay, for what feels like an eternity, then consider this video a lighthouse guiding you back to shores of genuine happiness. Let's embark on this important exploration together. So what exactly is this emotional chameleon we call dysthymia or persistent depressive disorder? Imagine depression as an electrical system in your emotional home. Major depression is like when a catastrophic power outage plunges everything into obvious darkness. Everyone notices immediately, and emergency measures are quickly deployed. But dysthymia? That's more like someone secretly installing a defective dimmer switch in every room of your emotional household. The lights technically still function, but they're perpetually, frustratingly dim to a level where colors fade, shadows grow longer, and everything requires more strain to see clearly. By clinical definition, it's characterized as a persistently depressed mood that maintains its grip for at least 2 years in adults, or 1 year in children and adolescents. But here's the truly insidious aspect that makes dysthymia such a masterful thief. Because it doesn't announce itself with the dramatic intensity of major depression, countless individuals never even recognize its presence in their lives. Instead, they tragically misinterpret their constant emotional twilight as simply the way life is supposed to feel, or worse, as an immutable aspect of their personality they must forever endure. Unlike the paralyzing weight of major depression that might leave you completely incapacitated and unable to leave your bed, dysthymia allows you to maintain a semblance of functionality in your daily existence. You still mechanically punch the clock at work. You continue going through the motions in your relationships. You methodically check tasks off your never-ending to-do list. But there's this omnipresent, suffocating emotional fog that subtly contaminates every experience, every interaction, every moment of your waking life. The constellation of symptoms typically includes a persistent undercurrent of sadness or emptiness shadowing most days, a chronic energy deficit that no amount of sleep seems to replenish, a corrosive deterioration of self-worth, an irritating inability to concentrate or make decisions with confidence, a pervasive sense of hopelessness about the future, mysterious disruptions in appetite or sleep patterns that defy explanation, and perhaps most devastatingly, an inability to derive genuine pleasure from activities and passions that once illuminated your world with meaning and joy. What makes this condition particularly dangerous is how these symptoms gradually become so intricately interwoven into the fabric of your daily existence that they begin to feel like your baseline normal, like the air you breathe, unremarkable and expected, allowing dysthymia to silently steal years or even decades of potential happiness before anyone recognizes a systematic emotional robbery taking place. I believe what strikes me as absolutely heartbreaking about the dysthymia experience is witnessing someone finally receive appropriate treatment after years of suffering, only to have them express with genuine astonishment, "I had absolutely no idea that life could possibly feel this vibrant and good." The revelation in their eyes is unmistakable. They've been unknowingly navigating through their entire existence with an oppressive gray filter obscuring their perceptual and emotional landscape for so tremendously long that they've completely forgotten, or perhaps never even experienced, what it means to truly see and feel life in its full, magnificent spectrum of emotional colors and possibilities. Here's a devastating phenomenon that remains criminally underdiscussed in mental health conversations, what clinical psychologists ominously refer to as double depression. Brace yourself for this alarming reality. Approximately 75% of individuals struggling with dysthymia will additionally experience excruciating episodes of major depression layered on top of their already persistent low mood. Try to imagine the psychological burden. You're already trudging through life carrying the constant weight of emotional dimness day after exhausting day, when suddenly, without warning, you're violently thrust into the abyss of a much deeper, more intense depressive state. It's like someone who's been barely treading water for miles, suddenly being caught in a powerful riptide, pulling them under. This compounding effect explains why dysthymia, despite being clinically categorized as mild, a woefully inadequate and potentially harmful label, can actually inflict more comprehensive and prolonged suffering than episodic major depression in many cases. Consider the contrasting experiences. An individual with major depression might endure devastating episodes of intense emotional darkness, but crucially, they also experience intervals of relatively normal mood between these episodes, precious windows of emotional respite and recovery. With dysthymia, especially when complicated by these treacherous double depression episodes, the suffering becomes relentlessly continuous, offering virtually no emotional sanctuary or opportunity for psychological recuperation. The statistics surrounding this condition should trigger immediate concern. Individuals battling dysthymia face a significantly elevated lifetime risk of suicide compared to the general population, a sobering reminder of the condition's severity despite its mild classification. Even more troubling is that the average duration of symptoms before proper diagnosis and treatment ranges from 5 to 7 excruciating years, with countless individuals enduring the silent torment for decades before finally receiving appropriate professional intervention. But amidst this seemingly bleak landscape, I want to illuminate a critical ray of hope. Dysthymia, despite its chronic nature and stealth, responds remarkably well to proper treatment once it's accurately identified and addressed. The fundamental challenge lies not in the treatability of the condition itself, but in the difficult process of helping people recognize this camouflaged emotional predator that has so seamlessly integrated itself into their perception of normal existence. Breaking through this recognition barrier represents the first and often most formidable hurdle in the journey toward reclaiming emotional well-being. So why does this emotional phantom known as dysthymia so consistently and successfully evade detection, often hiding in plain sight for years or even decades? Let's dissect the multiple factors that create this perfect diagnostic storm. First, and perhaps most insidious, is its extraordinarily gradual onset. Unlike major depression, which frequently announces itself with a distinct, identifiable triggering event or sudden emotional collapse, dysthymia infiltrates your psychological landscape with such calculated slowness. Molecule by emotional molecule, that pinpointing when your emotional climate actually began to change becomes virtually impossible. It's the psychological equivalent of watching hair grow. The daily changes are imperceptible, but eventually you look in the mirror and barely recognize yourself. Second, we must acknowledge the remarkable, and in this case problematic, human capacity for adaptation. Our psychological resilience, usually a tremendous evolutionary advantage, becomes a liability when dealing with dysthymia because humans possess an extraordinary ability to normalize their circumstances. When emotional well-being deteriorates with sufficient gradualness, our internal baseline for what constitutes normal continuously recalibrates downward in tiny increments, effectively masking the very problem that needs addressing. Consider this all-too-common exchange that happens in doctors' offices and living rooms around the world. "How have you been feeling lately?" comes a well-intentioned inquiry. "I'm fine, really, just chronically exhausted all the time," arrives a dismissive response. "And how long has this persistent fatigue been affecting you?" follows the crucial question. "I'm not entirely sure. Probably years? But that's just fundamentally who I am as a person. I've always been this way." Does this conversation pattern strike an uncomfortably familiar chord with you or someone you care about? Third, our cultural landscape frequently glorifies or intellectualizes persistent melancholy, misinterpreting chronic low mood as evidence of being particularly profound, artistically sensitive, or a deep philosophical thinker. While thoughtfulness and emotional sensitivity can certainly be valuable characteristics, they should never automatically come packaged with an oppressive, constant emotional heaviness that drains life of its color and vitality. And finally, despite significant progress in mental health awareness, the stubborn specter of stigma continues to haunt our collective consciousness even in 2025. Countless individuals still experience profound hesitation and shame when confronting potential mental health challenges, and the comparatively subtle, less dramatic symptoms of dysthymia unfortunately make it even easier to rationalize, minimize, or completely dismiss what's happening beneath the surface of consciousness. If you're currently watching this video and experiencing that unsettling moment of recognition, that lightning bolt of realization thinking, wait a minute, this doesn't just describe someone abstract, this precisely describes my daily lived experience. Please hear this message with absolute clarity. You are not remotely alone in this struggle, and this persistent grayness is categorically not simply how life is naturally designed to feel. There exists a significantly brighter emotional landscape waiting for you beyond the horizon of proper treatment. A world where genuine joy, authentic engagement, and vibrant emotional colors can once again illuminate your days with meaning and possibility. Let's talk briefly about what might be happening in the brain with dysthymia. Like other forms of depression, dysthymia involves changes in brain chemistry, particularly neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine. But research suggests there might be some differences too. Studies using brain imaging show that people with dysthymia often have differences in areas like the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala, regions involved in mood regulation and emotional processing. But here's what's fascinating. These changes aren't set in stone. The brain has neuroplasticity, the ability to rewire itself. This is one reason why treatments like therapy and medication can be effective. They help create new neural pathways. Some research even suggests that because dysthymia develops over time, the brain may become wired for low mood through repeated patterns of thinking and feeling. The good news? We can help rewire it for more positive patterns too. I'm not going to overwhelm you with neuroscience, but I think it's important to understand that there are real biological processes happening here. It's not all in your head in the dismissive sense. It's literally in your brain in the very real physical sense. All right, so what can actually help with dysthymia? The good news is that even though dysthymia is chronic, it's also very treatable. Research shows that a combination approach often works best. Psychotherapy, particularly cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and interpersonal therapy. These help identify and change negative thought patterns that maintain the low mood. Therapy typically runs for 16 to 20 sessions, but can be shorter or longer depending on individual needs. Medication, antidepressants, particularly SSRIs, can be effective for dysthymia. They work by balancing those neurotransmitters we talked about. Keep in mind that medication often takes 4 to 6 weeks to show full effects. Lifestyle changes, never underestimate the power of. Regular exercise, even just walking can boost mood. Consistent sleep schedule, healthy diet, particularly omega-3s and complex carbohydrates, social connection, even when it's the last thing you feel like doing, and mindfulness practices or meditation. What's really interesting is that research shows each of these approaches actually creates changes in the brain. Exercise increases BDNF, a protein that promotes neural growth. Therapy creates new neural pathways. Even nutritional changes can affect brain function. I want to be clear. Seeking help is not a sign of weakness. It's quite the opposite. It takes real courage to acknowledge when something's not right and take steps to change it. And with dysthymia in particular, the right treatment can make a dramatic difference in your quality of life. So what does recovery from dysthymia look like? For many people, it's not about becoming perpetually happy. That's not a realistic goal for anyone. It's about expanding your emotional range. It's about having genuine ups and downs rather than that persistent flatness. Recovery might mean rediscovering enjoyment in activities, having more energy, improved concentration and decision-making, more optimism about the future, and greater resilience when facing challenges. But recovery isn't always linear. Many people experience setbacks, and that's completely normal. The key is to have strategies ready for when those tougher periods hit. Something I think is really important to mention is that many people with dysthymia develop incredible strength through their experience. They've learned to function and keep going despite persistent low mood, That takes remarkable fortitude. In recovery, you don't lose that strength. You just gain the ability to experience more joy alongside it. And that combination, strength with joy, is pretty powerful. If you think you might be dealing with dysthymia, here are some practical first steps. Talk to your primary care doctor. They can rule out physical causes like thyroid issues. Consider reaching out to a mental health professional. Start a mood journal to track patterns. Implement one small lifestyle change at a time. And be patient with yourself through the process. Remember, dysthymia developed over time, and recovery takes time too. Small steps lead to big changes. Dysthymia might be clinically classified as mild depression, perhaps one of the most dangerous and misleading labels in all of mental health terminology. But make no mistake, there's absolutely nothing remotely mild about living beneath a depressive shadow day after relentless day, month after draining month, year after colorless year, as it systematically dismantles your capacity for joy and connection. If the experiences and descriptions shared throughout this video have resonated with some deep, perhaps previously unnamed part of your emotional reality, I want you to absorb this fundamental truth with every fiber of your being. Life can, and absolutely should, feel dramatically different than what you're currently experiencing. The persistent, all-encompassing grayness that has become your accepted normal is neither inevitable nor an intrinsic part of your authentic self. I would be profoundly honored to hear your personal thoughts, reflections, and lived experiences in the comment section below. This growing community we're building together represents a genuinely safe, judgment-free sanctuary for honest sharing, and sometimes a seemingly simple act of finally articulating and naming what you've been silently enduring for years can catalyze the first transformative step toward meaningful healing and reclaiming your emotional birthright. If you found value, insight, or even just a fragment of hope in this exploration of dysthymia, please consider giving this video a thumbs up, not for my benefit, but because this small action dramatically increases the likelihood of this information reaching others who may be silently suffering, believing they're fundamentally broken or destined to experience life through a perpetual fog. And if you're discovering this channel for the first time, I delve deeply into multifaceted aspects of mental health, personal development, emotional intelligence, and holistic wellness every single week right here. So I enthusiastically invite you to hit that subscribe button and become an active, valued member of the ever-growing Atzakaprat community of emotional explorers and mental health warriors. And hey, if you're currently navigating through particularly turbulent emotional waters, please remember this essential truth that countless generations of human wisdom have confirmed. Reaching out for appropriate support is never, under any circumstances, a manifestation of weakness, but rather one of the most profound demonstrations of authentic courage and self-compassion you can possibly express. You fundamentally deserve to experience so much more than merely surviving or feeling just okay. You deserve to fully thrive, to feel genuine joy, to experience deep connection, and to rediscover the vibrant spectrum of emotional possibilities that make human existence so extraordinarily precious. Until our paths cross again in the next video, this is Zaki, your fellow traveler on this complex human journey, signing off with immense gratitude for your presence. Please prioritize nurturing your magnificent heart and mind with tenderness, and I eagerly look forward to continuing our exploration together very soon.